Libros Schmibros is a podcast exploring the people, books, movies, and ideas that Angelinos care about in a thoughtful way that even New Yorkers can understand. We're coming to you from Libros Schmibros, our nonprofit bilingual lending library in Boyle Heights, on the west coast of the country and the east bank of the mighty Los Angeles River.
Welcome, everybody. This is Vickie Vertiz. I'm a poet and educator, and I'm a student of Juan Felipe Herrera's, and I'm so happy to be here with him, interviewing him about his new book, Every Day We Get More Illegal, which you can get a copy of from City Lights. Welcome, Maestro.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Vickie. And hello, everyone. And thank you for inviting me. Really feel good.
Yeah, sorry. We've been chismeando already for like a good 10 minutes. So we're going to catch you up on all the good thoughts that we've been having and talking about. So we were just talking about a lot of things, right? Like what is poetry and where it comes from. And but I had these beautiful questions. So let's talk about the book for just a second, and then we'll jump back in to our conversation. Okay. So Juan, Maestro Juan has written 30 books, and we're just talking about what that means and how that happens. But this book that's out this year from City Lights is described in the following way by Jose Olivares, who's a great poet himself. These poems talk directly to America, to migrant people, and to working people. Herrera has created a chorus to remind us we are alive and beautiful and powerful.
Thank you.
And I mean that, yes.
Very kind. Yeah, it's very kind. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is really beautiful. So I think he's, very much right. This book is filled with so many 10,000 voices, right? Ko'un's 10,000 voices.
1,000 voices.
So many communities, so many flowers, so many ancestors, so many, like we said just now, stories, right? That poetry for a lot of us begins with story, not everyone, but that's a heart, I think, in a lot of our communities of where poetry comes from. But Juan, so tell us about this book. When was it born for you?
It was born quite a while, probably 2 years ago. I went through a lot of drafts of this book, probably 60, reworkings and shifting and title. And I had a whole cartoon set in it, a comic book in the middle of it. It was called Taco Tuesdays. And I had drawings. It was like, with drawings, So
we've been talking about Taco Tuesday for a while because there was a chicken in a kimono who was going to be at Taco Tuesday.
Oh, that was then. That was good. Fabergé.
Yes, Fabergé.
Yeah,
so that didn't make it in.
That didn't make it in, but the Taco Tuesday made it in, and then the Taco Tuesday got kicked out. So it took a while to get to it, and I'm not used to that. This is a whole different book for me because I'm used to kind of a quick, fast style. So I'll finish it. I'll keep the momentum, keep the feeling, stay on it, keep the comal hot, keep the stove hot, and because when I take off and come back, I'll lose momentum. I'll lose the groove, the music, the feeling. So I'm used to that style. But this time, it wasn't coming together. I had the cartoons, and the cartoons were taking it in a whole other direction. The book didn't really need that. It was called America, I'm Talking to You. That was one of the titles I had. America, I'm Talking to You. So every poem was going to be directly addressed to America. And that changed, and I took that off. I had a mask, paper mache mask for a cover. I took that off. And a lot of things. I just chopped, and then I sent it to City Lights. Elaine Katzenberger, the executive director and editor. She looked at it, and then she sent it back to me. And it was at least 40 pages. She cut 40 pages. I go, what? But I needed that because otherwise it would have had all your fun stuff and takeoffs. I had another poem called Dada, Dado, Dada, or something like that, which I enjoyed, but it didn't make it, and 40 pages didn't make it. So then I had what's left, and I go, man, this is it's kind of tight. I go, I like that part, but it was missing. It was missing something, and that's when I put in the address book for a firefly on the road north. I said, I want to put a little address book in the middle of it. I mean, in and out of it. And it allowed breathing in the book, and allowed the book to breathe. And what really got me into the address book was my mother used to have a really small address book, the size, not the size of one of these cards.
Yes.
If not smaller. It was a really tiny address book that you'd buy at Woolworths in those days, a 5 and dime store. A little tiny address book.
Yes.
With little red cover and red back cover and little pages with lines on them. And I have it, I have that. And then when I started looking at her address book, I noticed that she used it as a diary book. It doesn't really have addresses in it. She makes small notations, and they're heavy notations about when I was a really tiny boy and we were surviving on welfare. And she would write how difficult it was, or she would write, today I bought my son some oranges. So it's very tender what she wrote in that little address book, and it's very big. So I said, I'm going to write an address book here. And that inspired me to do an address book. And then I said, this is about migrantes, And I said, they make stops on the way, when you're in a pilgrimage or a migrant trail, there's stops along the way. So in those stops, there's a lot of reflections, and there's kind of also, relaxation and sharing stories, or just taking a break and then moving on. And that was true for the caravana of migrantes on the way north, as we all remember. It didn't turn out too well at the end, but on the road, there were stops, there were lakes, and people just jumped in a little river and splashed themselves. And there's also pilgrimages, like the kind of native pilgrimage that our ancestors would have, where you go on a pilgrimage to Wirikuta, for example, the Huichol pilgrimage to collect peyote, sacred peyote, tea peyote, and then have a vision, and then get instructions in a way, get learnings, and see things differently. But along that pilgrimage, there's shrines, as there are shrines in most of our barrios and streets. I go to the fields here in Fresno, and those shrines that are built when someone dies on the road, tragically. And then we see all those florecitas and botecitos and virgencitas and candles and flowers throughout the streets in the city. So anyway, I applied that concept, and that that trail, that's kind of a psychic trail, or a soul trail, in the address book, in the pattern of the book. So I really like that. So anyway, that's what happened with the address books. They have a lot of things in them. That pattern has a lot of reflection in it. And then the rest happens as it happens of the book. Took a while. Took too long, but it was just right.
Well, it took too long on a Juan Felipe timeline, which for the rest of us is like warp speed, right? Like everyone has a different writing process length, and like, I don't know if this happens to you too, but it feels like something that happens to many artists, which is that you start out with your concept, and then the movida goes and does what it's going to do, and you kind of have to follow it to figure out if that's what was really going to happen.
That's true.
And then when you collaborate with an editor, then it's a whole other situation. You're like, oh, I see. They see things we don't see necessarily. And you're like, oh, I needed touchstones. I needed altares to hold this song. Like, really, it's a kind of song in here, right? A kind of, but actually I wanted to, so thank you for that. And I want to, later on, I want us to talk a little bit about what you mentioned earlier about, you know, how do we get to 30 books? Like, what's that? Because I think a lot of people who are just starting out in the writing life, or also students, you know, who are like, I don't know if I'm a writer, but think that they look maybe at careers like yours and say like, pues como, right? Like, but I think there's a way where we can demystify that in a little bit.
Yes.
Do you have a copy of your book with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can we, for me, one of the hearts of this book
Yeah.
is, yeah, you want to get it? Okay.
That was pretty bright. It was kind of getting to me. Yes. Whatever you like.
Yeah, no. For me, like the hearts of this book are in two places. And I think that first page, on page 50 and 51, right? To me, but I want to talk about that first poem, but I would love for you to read it.
Okay.
Could you read it for us?
Oh, the first one, the very
Yes.
first one?
Page 3.
Okay.
America, we talk about it.
Okay. America, we talk about it every day of the week. It is not easy. First, I had to learn over decades to take care of myself. Are you listening? I had to learn. I had to gain, pebble by pebble, seashell by seashell, the courage to listen to myself, my true inner self. For that, I had to push you aside. It was not easy. I had pushed aside my mother, my father, myself, and that artificial stairway of becoming you, to be inside of you. After years, I realized, perhaps too late, there was no way I could bring them back. I could not rewind the clock, but I did. I could do one thing. I could care. Now we are here.
And they're here, right? Our families are like in
They're
here.
here.
Like we care in here, we care in here, we care out here.
Yeah, that's true about caring. Yes.
But that really stayed with me, that beginning there, because there's a kind of accumulation of experiences about what it actually means to take care of yourself
Yeah.
and like survive.
Survive.
In addition to thinking about, you know, our identities as, you know, children of immigrants and migrants, as people of color, as why else did it stay with me? Because I related to it, because I was like, yeah, there's this way where our educations, as we were talking earlier, give us these Western glasses that you put on, and you have to look at things through to survive, to get through school, to not get recolonized. But in a way, these glasses make you see things in a warped way that block some things but not others, and value some and mostly not all. And so that's how I read that poem, because I'm always still thinking about like, what do we give up in our educations in this country as immigrants or people of color in order to succeed, right? And how do we come back from that? How do we repair or get back what we lost? So that, I don't know, I'm totally reading into it, but I don't know.
No, you know, it's beautiful what you say. You know, there's not one thing or message, or, you know, it's not that. You're right. It really isn't. Right. I realize that that's the key, is to care. Because, you know, you and I can just, and everyone, we can just go about fulfilling our own goals, fulfilling our own projects, fulfilling our own visions, and fulfilling ourselves and filling ourselves up with ourselves. And we forget that we're in a much wider world. And in fulfilling ourselves, we cut off a lot of people. We cut off a lot of people. We cut off a lot of concerns. Everything, actually. Even though we have an idea in our head that we're expanding, but if we just considering ourselves, we have lost almost everything. I also felt that in this collection I wanted to propose that to the readers and to the people, that we have to care, we must care at this time, and that people want to feel cared for, and people want to care. And there's so much we've gone to a point, to this boiling point, or to this burning point, where if we don't reflect on kindness and our kindness and how we can generate kindness with in whatever mode we choose to, then things will get worse. And people want to receive our words, receive our writing, and be embraced. People want to receive our writings at this time and be embraced, and they want to embrace. We all want to be in a collective embrace, especially at this time. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of separation. There's a lot of, as we know, the word division. We already have it tattooed now, and there's a lot of hate. So our writing is good to reflect on how we're going to reorient our feelings, our thinking, and ourselves. So this is that project, or that dedication I put into this book. It may not all have worked out, but that's where I got into. That's the spaceship I got into. And I have always, for many years, even since high school, I really disliked writing that was direct. I disliked poetry that just came out and say, "Oh, what a beautiful day." I would burn that poetry if I could.
Right.
I wanted to write, a surreal, imagistic structure. Lorca, Artaud, the surrealist. That's what I wanted to do, and I did that for quite a while. But that time, for me, that time has passed, and I want to be most direct, because I think we want people to read. We want people to read what we're saying and to receive it, and not just to go, "Oh, that was really cool, Juan. One of your other symbolic poems. Oh, okay, well, very good. But I don't know what you're talking about, but I guess that's the way I'm going to enjoy it." Yeah.
Right.
So I'm kind of moving on, even though that's probably just as strange as what I used to write.
I mean, I realized that I didn't read a bio for you at the beginning, and I had it all worked out and stuff over here. But you were a U.S. Poet Laureate from 2015 to 2017. And of course, your career spans, ¿Dónde estamos? 50 years? When the UCLA Center for Chicano Studies opened.
50 plus years.
Yeah. So, you have this long, beautiful life in letters and in expression, right? I don't want to just say like in writing, because it's a facade. Like, it's really being open to the expression of life and harm and death, and also joy, that you like ride those waters, and you've been doing that in different ways since then, right? But yeah, like the way that you've been documenting our experiences as Chicanos and Chicanx people, I think is really beautiful. And it's in kind of all of these different stages you just mentioned, right? Like, at first you wanted to be Dada, Lorca, and I think a lot of us I write to Lorca still, right? But we have different phases. You're like, well, now I'm in a different one where I need to talk to people directly. And you got to do that. You've been doing that your whole life, but then got to do that in your Poet Laureate capacities. Do you remember one really good story of like someone's reaction to your words when you were on the road? Do you have like one or two that pop up in your mind?
Well, on the road, people were very excited on the road. Students, let's say at University of Michigan, they were just pounding the floor even before I hit the stage. And it wasn't really, I didn't take it out, oh, it's about me, but they were really excited. people really want to hear your poetry. People, students, young people, community members, they come to the readings, and they're just so thirsty. Because how many times do people listen to poetry? You and I, we're all here concerned about poetry and writing and literature, but we're, I don't know, we're like 0.700% of those interested in poetry, the way we are. And it's good to break that wall. So when I was out there, people really, they were excited. Sometimes I would notice there was a mujer campesina in the audience. I go, wow, this is great. And then at the signature table, I also noticed that maybe one or two mujeres campesinas, migrantes, were kind of just floating around the signature table. And because, it's a whole thing, you get in line, you buy a book, there's going to be a sign, you're going to be a signature. That's a whole mechanism. And maybe they weren't familiar with that type of mechanism. It's like, I'm going to do a reading. Well, what's a reading? Well, I'm a poet. Well, why? What is that? Why are you doing poetry anyway? You should be out there working. So it's a whole other world we're in that we take for granted. So I noticed mujeres campesinas, and on occasion, I remember talking to una de las mujeres, maybe she was just from a farm worker like my parents. It's nothing really radically different. It's just that not every student is a farm worker student. And I said, how are things going? And I said that as coded language, because it was a time when all the ice sweeps were taking place. I said, well, how are things going? She goes, okay, okay. And that was the conversation. Sometimes the conversations are just short, but they're full. And I guess what she was telling me was that she was surviving and her family was surviving. Because the professors there told me also, this was in Bakersfield City College Bakersfield. And I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And the teacher said, so I said, how are the students? And she says, well, they're kind of leaving. They're leaving. They're not finishing. They're BA. I go, how come? Well, they're bright students. They're great. They were doing great, but now they're leaving. I said, how come? Because of the ICE raids. Their parents don't want to stay at the work because they don't want to be picked up and, shipped out to who knows where. So the students are getting a little job at Wendy's or whatever is possible to keep the money coming in, and they got to leave school. They got to drop out. So, so the poems that I would read, they were. I was glad that we were meeting up. I don't really remember a particular poem. The you just don't talk about it poem. People went bananas over that poem. It's a hard poem to read. That one's a hard poem to read.
It is.
But I'm glad that I was given that opportunity to read poetry and to meet the students, to meet professors, community, whether I was in Silver City, up in the mountains of southern Nuevo Mexico. Is that right? That's right. And I met Philip de Ortego there, one of our incredible literary critics of the early 70s, who was the one who coined Renacimiento, Chicano, the Chicano Renaissance. He kind of coined that term, and it's been a great literary forerunner for all of us. But we don't see his work that often, or maybe we don't see it at all.
Yeah.
But he passed away recently in the mid 90s. He was 90 plus years old.
Wow.
So anyway, that's there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, you got to meet, thousands of people. Yeah, no, I mean, but this is how we kind of demystify, like, how do you write a book? It's, you have to live your life.
You gotta live your life. Right?
And then you tell the stories, for me. So that's my process. So I'm projecting, right? Like for me, I mean, I feel like Chidi Moraga is giving me some of the best advice about writing, right? Like, you tell the story first and worry about the genre later. ¿Qué va a ser? A ver,
Yeah.
put it
Don't
down.
even, if you want to, that's if you want to think about the genre.
Right, because you're just like, what's just genre? Me hace los mandados. That's how you and genre are. Or you hang out with genre and you have like candy together. Actually, that's kind of
And you
more
hang
like it.
out, have genre candy.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
exactly what one of my favorite poems in here is. I am not a paid protester.
Oh,
I was like, we need to act this out. This is really fun. Should we?
sure.
What?
Yeah, let's do that. I read when I was up in Iowa, getting the MFA, which it was a great moment. But one of the poets that I ran into that I read in an anthology or a book was David Ignatow, or David Ignatow, Ignatow, perhaps David Ignatow, and he had an interview poem. It was an interview, and I really enjoyed it because it had a whole different feel to it, and it felt really accessible. And there's many surprises in an interview, as we're creating right now. So I like that form. From that day on, I did these kind of poems. I'm not a paid protester, and I have another one in here, but it's a little different. It's not as direct. So I enjoy them a lot, and I encourage everyone to write interview poems or dramatic two characters talking to each other poems, or an object that talks to another object, like that. So it gives us more room to breathe, and it's less language, and it's more direct language, and perhaps even more more chords are being played, more music is being played, deeper perhaps. So anyway, yeah, I'm not a paid protester.
Not a paid protester. Okay, as acted out by us. Who do you want to be?
You can be the interrogator.
I knew you were gonna say that because I'm the oldest child. Okay, so let me put on my interrogator.
And I'm the last child.
Wait, see, this is our dynamics. Okay. Okay. Okay, I have to pretend. You're a paid protester.
No.
We know you are being paid.
No. Mm-mm.
We know you are being paid at this very moment.
No.
We know you are being funded by shadow investors.
That is incorrect.
We know that you meet with shadow investors interested in overturning our structures.
I'm not concerned with your structures. As a matter of fact, you do not have any so-called structures at this time.
That's what you have been instructed to say. We know.
No, you do not.
You have been instructed to launch a spiral, a ring across the edifice, to install a fracture, a severance, a crevice.
What are you saying? I mean, how do you know?
We know. You do things and then you do them.
I am protesting, that is all.
No, you are not.
I am here of my own free will.
There is no such thing.
That is why I'm protesting.
You are paid.
Listen, I am protesting out of my own free will.
There is no such thing.
How about some candy?
You are bribing me.
I don't do that.
Of course.
How about some candy?
I don't do that.
I got ginseng.
No way. Never.
Take my frog.
You gotta be kidding, man.
Take it.
You're out of your mind.
It's a meditation frog.
Never in your life.
You can meditate with it.
We're getting nowhere.
Excellent.
What?
We are on the way.
I'm hitting the button.
Get out of your bubble.
I'm hitting the button.
What button?
The deportation button.
Wow.
You hear me?
Wow.
I'm hitting it.
It's not the deportation button. Push it.
You're tricking me.
It's the mass hypnosis button.
You are out of your gourd, sir.
Push it.
I don't want to push it.
Push it.
Dun dun. What? What? I love that, like, we don't, yeah, there's the meditation frog. I should have taken it. I'd be much happier now instead of being a border patrol agent. It's like I can't even like pretend to do it because I'm just like, I don't understand that line of thinking, but here we are, right? And I love that, like, I love that the poet like finally just wears them down, offering them candy.
Well, it's a good thing to when you're writing. We're on the flow. We got this thing going, and it's coming out, and everybody's happy. But feel free to just get the steering wheel and just turn it right as fast as you can, or turn it left, or hit the turbo, and just leap and get out of it. Get out of where you were headed, and just throw something in there and see what happens. I enjoy doing that quite a bit, and sometimes I say I'm going to do this when I start writing this poem. Somewhere in there, I don't know what I'm going to throw in there, but it's not going to have anything to do with what was before it, and I want to see what happens. So so this one I wanted to change I just wanted to change it, and I'm looking back where we were. Yeah. So I said, he says, there's no such thing. I said, how about some candy? And then it just took took this whole thing in a whole different direction.
Turns there. Mm-hmm.
And then I said, I'm going to keep it up. How about some ginseng? Yeah. I said, take my frog. And I said, it's a meditation frog. And then it kind of added something really funny and strange and all at the same time. Yeah. And sometimes it's good to do that, because sometimes you get the feeling that the poem has to all come together, and it has to be, connected, and everything's got to line up, and the lines, and all of a sudden we're kind of, I don't know what it is. What are we doing? It's too tight. It's too
You're following the rules. Yeah. You're back at the bus stop, following the rules.
the schedule, So feel free to be the wild sister.
Yeah.
The sister that comes just jumping out and is going to tear it all up and punch you in the nose and pull your ear and step on your brand new shoes. Feel free to be that person, or that poet, or have that fever somewhere in that poem.
Yeah.
Just all out. Feel free to have attitude. It's okay. As writers, we create characters, we create voices, but the voice doesn't always have to be in church. It doesn't always have to be in a Marxist meeting. It doesn't always have to be in kind of a solemn hut on the beach. It can be splashing and surfing, and it could be also wearing a black jacket and a trench coat. It can be pretty heavy. So feel free to create the voices, and to veer off of your own voice, quote unquote, and get out there on a rugged trail, and put on a weird outfit, and get hotter. Most of the time, right? A poem is kind of cool, or maybe it's kind of lukewarm, es como una tacita de café con leche, it's a cafe latte most of the time. Well, feel free to get some heavy attitude and try some poems that way. Yeah. And I didn't, it's like You Just Don't Care, that poem.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of put in some, I put in a hotter temperature in that poem.
Yeah.
And so feel free to do that. And I come to saying that out loud. But you did good. I like how you read I'm Not a Paid Protester. It would be fun to do a series of those with a group.
Yeah.
Given what's going on today.
Yeah.
Archive, like you said, archive the moment.
Or like we have to I think what you're saying a few different things that I want to point out, because I want to show this to my students and to be like, how do we get ourselves into a space where we give ourselves permission to play at a time when we are worried that our families or we might get sick and leave this earth, when we've been watching our communities being caged, our children being caged. Like, how do we find play? How do we find permission to be creative, right? And I think that's really hard for a lot of us who feel this responsibility or are just really sad about what's happening, right? And I think we have to remember that to keep going, we have to give ourselves permission to play and to imagine other things, and also to engage the border machine and not just want to blow it up, but to say, like, I have this ginseng that I want to introduce into your CD-ROM, into your USB drive in your port, and I want to see what happens to it. And of course, it doesn't fit, and so the machine doesn't know what to do with it, and you short circuit the thing, right? With like our medicine, with like playing with like the thing that you didn't expect. And so you know, and your work really has been like a map for me in that way, with that it's like, you know, when we worked together at UC Riverside, where I was a student and where you taught, you were the Mas Rivera endowed chair, you were like, you need to go to the candy store. So you went back to the bus stop with this poem, like, look at it, it's all justified left, it's on little stanzas. You were like, go to the candy store. And the candy store is a place that I gave myself permission to be in, because I went to grad school and I said, my work is going to be in the word and whatever that means. And so you cracked that open for me. And I think all of our students in writing need to do that. And the ones who do it best are the youngest people. They're not tripping about, they are the leaping lizards. They're always making stuff up. So
the leaping lizards, that's a good name.
It's, you know, I stole it from Annie. So, you know, getting in touch with those young parts of ourselves. So I just
that's right.
that. You know, thank you, Maestro.
That's good. Yeah, that's right. You know, all those things are right. Yeah. You know, experimenting and getting really as caring as you can be. Explore how caring. You know, explore your kindness. Expand your kindness, expand your experiments, expand your vision. You know, I was reflecting, I don't know how many months ago this was. I mean, it's an obvious thing, but for me, it was a new thing. I said, consciousness. I said that consciousness has the ability to expand. You know, it has the ability to expand onto infinity. And I think that's one of my little address books.
Yes,
and that was my own. You know, it's I'm sure you've touched this more than once, that it's infinite. So it's good to you know, work in the sphere that we work in, whatever size that is. But it's also good to kind of stop and notice that your consciousness, your mind, is extremely and infinitely expansive, and that kind of provides a whole different landscape, obviously. So I enjoy that. I enjoy that orientation, and it allows us to envelop humanity to begin with. You know, all of humanity, and it allows us to envelop all groups and all cultures, all colors, and, you know, all genders, all orientations, not to mention space. and stars and planets and beyond that.
Yeah.
And it's good to go out there. It's good to go out there. And we begin to notice that we're kind of little specks. We begin to notice our size and our ability to expand also at the same time.
Yeah.
We're not just here, we can also be there and here. And that gives us who we really are. It begins to give us a sense of what we are beyond the kind of mechanical, consumerist, materialist track we're on.
Yeah.
It's not a groovy track,
No.
but we're so accustomed to it from day one that we kind of stay on it. But all this time we have had the ability to really stretch, but no one says it. No one says it. Here we are. I'm getting a grade. I'm going to pass. I want to get this degree. I'm going to move on. I'm going to get a book, and I'm going to go to read. Well, of course.
Right.
But there's a lot of room. There's a lot of room in the short time that we have in this infinite place.
Yeah.
So if we have a short time in an infinite place, hey, how about exploring the infinite place?
Right.
If our time is short in this infinite place, how about exploring our limited time in this infinite place?
And
that's
doing it together.
And doing it together, by the way.
Which to me, I think it says a couple of different things, and we have about 10 minutes left because we've already been chismeando for like a long time. But it makes me think of a few different things. One is that it gets back to the goggles, right? The goggles we get from school, and then we're looking through a few different lenses. One of them, for some of us, not everyone, is the American dream glasses, right? They're like, oh yeah, pues aquí vas a llegar, and you're gonna get, your land, and it's actually already somebody else's land. We're on occupied, unceded territories. This whole country is a settler colony, and we as immigrants arrive on it as it is, but we are so traumatized that we are just like, we have to have our basic needs met. And then the American dream is this thing that is actually a nightmare because it just continues to harm the earth. It continues to harm the people that were already here. And it harms us because we don't see it. And we're like playing ball with everybody gets their own house. Well, what about everyone else, right? And so we drink the Kool-Aid of like, if I just work hard enough, when we know that's not true, that the people who work the hardest get paid the least. So there's all of these confusing messages that we take in and that we drink and that we think are for helping our family, but it's actually to help the individual, which helps this idea of the United States replicate, even in us who left our countries because of that idea, pushing us out here. So it's just, what you're actually saying, I think for me, is that we need to have a different relationship to the earth and to each other, which is about, if you are harmed, then I am harmed.
Yes.
It's a symbiotic, which is one aspect of indigenous thought and practice that I've had to relearn and re-understand and see my part in it, right? And so I think also that it's a very one aspect of a Buddhist practice is to see everyone as the Eight Noble Truths, right? The two I remember, it's just very Chicana of me. It's like, there is suffering and suffering ends, right? So how do we get from one of those to the other one without just going alone, right?
Yeah.
And I think you say that for me, the heart on page 51. So let's sign off with
51,
which is one of the address book for the Fireflies on the Road North.
Oh, okay.
Will you read it first?
That's a good question you posed. How do we get to the end of suffering? How do we stop suffering?
Right.
So 51.
Yes.
Okay. Did you want me to read the title, or did you want to read?
Sure.
You read the title?
Address book for the Firefly on the Road North, number 5.
If you climb faster than the others, You will reach the place you have dreamed of. Yet, you will miss something. You will miss the journey of the whole.
We have to go together.
We have to go together. Yeah.
Thank you.
When I was visiting the Huichol in central Mexico in 1970, we were walking together on the way to the village, El Colorín, so many miles, you know. But I was so excited. I'm 21 years old. I was so excited. I just walked way, I walked way ahead with a friend that I met on the road. We met on the road. And we just walked and walked and walked and went up the mountain, got in there and just kind of found the village. And that was great. It was lovely. But not too long ago, when was putting this book together, I started to write these address book poems. I go, I miss climbing that mountain with a group. You know, and that was a valuable group. I mean, the stories, the people, and my excitement. It was like a fireball. I just had to get up there. So that's where this one comes from. And then of course it has its own thing going, you know, because that story is not in here. Something else is in here. And that's for you. Yeah, but that's true.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe we can close out with a wish that we have for the students that we work with, maybe a wish for ourselves, maybe a wish for our communities, because I see that this is an invitation. To me, this book is an invitation to not look away, right? Like we're not looking away from the harm that is being caused, that our responsibility is to see it and to care. And then we have to go together, right? And we have to bring everyone, even if, you know, they have caused harm, which is, I think, a really, you know, how do we have love with accountability? You know, like, I don't know. That's the question we're going to look at. But what's one wish that you have for students?
I wish the students healing, kindness, compassion.
I wish them permission to say the things they need to say.
Yes, I wish them freedom of who they are.
Yes. Ooh. I wish them time to play.
I wish them dancing out in the open for once, with their arms open and embracing their lives and the life all around them.
I wish them teachers who help them read things to be free.
Oh yeah, yes. I wish them an embrace that they will have for the rest of their lives. And I wish them embracing all the relatives and all things.
May they be safe. May they be healthy.
Yeah.
May they be free from suffering. Yeah. Thank you, Maestro.
May they be free from suffering. Well said.
Yes. Yes. It's a practice. We have to keep doing it. That's the secret. How do you get from the end of suffering? You just keep trying. You come back to it.
Yeah. Keep writing kindness with your life. Yes. Well, thank you, Maestra.
Yes, yay! And then I get to be a teacher. You were my example, and Chidi is my example, and students are my example.
You are our example.
Thank you. I'm going to read your bio now at the end.
Oh, wow.
So we just spoke with Juan Felipe Herrera, who was the U.S. Poet Laureate from 2015 to 2017, and who was inspired by the early Chicano movement and by heavy exposure to various poetry, jazz, and blues performance streams. His published works include 187 Reasons Mexicanos Can't Cross the Border, Undocuments, it's a beautiful book, Border Crosser with a Lamborghini Dream, Mayan Drifter, Thunder Weavers, Laughing Out Loud, I Fly, which I highly recommend. It's a bilingual book with drawings. Crash Boom Love, Cinnamon Girl, Calling the Doves, so many awards, so many prizes. And now we have, every day we get more illegal from City Lights Books. He's gotten many awards, such as the National Book Critics Circle Award in Poetry, a Guggenheim, muy fancy. He's a poet laureate of California. He's taught at Cal State, University of Fresno, Riverside, my alma mater, and was a Tomas Rivera Endowed Chair there. And he lives in Fresno. Pick up his books, any of them, and go play with words. Thank you, Maestro.
Thank you, Vickie.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording and then we'll
Okay.
say goodbye. But goodbye, Boyle Heights. We love you.
Yeah, Boyle Heights.
And we'll see you soon.
So ends another episode of Libros Schmibros, recorded at the bilingual nonprofit Libros Schmibros Lending Library in Boyle Heights. By all means, follow us online in all the old familiar places, or email us via info@libroschmibros.org. By the way, we couldn't do this podcast without the whole Libros team, Cuauhtemoc, Colleen, Diana, and Alberto. And all of them would kill me if I didn't add this. Please consider visiting libroschmibros.org, hitting the donut button, the donate button, and giving us a gift. We put good free books into people's hands 5 days a week here at Libros, right across from Mariachi Plaza, up in the old Boyle Hotel. I'm David Kippen, and there'll always be a free book for you, and thousands more to borrow here at Libros Schmibros.